Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel. So today we're just going to go over our general thoughts. It's been about, I'm going to say a month and a half since our Jordan trip.
Yeah, our Jordan trip was the very first weekend of March 2020. So yeah, it's been about, I guess, almost 2 months, the beginning of May.
The whole corona situation has obviously taken over the world, but we kind of just wanted to lay out all of our thoughts. So if you decide to go to Jordan in the future, you kind of know what to expect, as I think that we would have found that very helpful too.
And we loved our trip, by the way. It was wonderful. And it ended up being the weekend we went. As soon as we got home, it was when the restrictions first started. So we were very lucky to be able to go when we did.
So before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification so that you can know when we upload again. But let's just jump into the video. Okay, here we go. So we're just going to break it down by going over just general, the beforehand, the setup, what program we chose, why we did it, that sort of stuff. So first question is just, what tour group did we go through? And
we went through Abraham Hostels, which has sentimental value for us because we think it's the best hostel in Tel Aviv, and we stayed there many times. But through being in Israel for the year and interacting with different people on our program, we learned that there's a way to go with hostels a lot of the time on organized groups. They do really excellent tour groups. We found out that there was an opportunity to go to Petra through Abraham Hostel.
The one that we ended up doing was a 2-day trip. It was one night. You spent the night in a Bedouin camp. We did the one that leaves out of a lot, which for us we thought was the best way to go because it was a little cheaper that way, plus we could kind of tag it along with going and hanging out on the beach. The first day was Wadi Rum and then spending the night in a Bedouin camp, and then the second day was Petra and then coming back to a lot. And then we went during the time of the year, we already said, but in January.
March.
Oh my god.
What we ended up doing, why we chose that time specifically, is originally why Alexis got confused, totally understandable, is we thought we would go in January because it seemed to make sense with how our program works. We get one Sunday off a month. We wanted to do it sooner than later, but we realized you really have to think about weather when it comes to a trip like this, because you want to make sure that you can really appreciate Petra, and if the weather isn't good, then it really detracts from the experience. So we researched and found out that Jordan's really raining cold in January, so we threw that out. And what made us really decide to go that weekend that we did in March was when we knew that was supposed to be some of the best weather, and it's true. We had really wonderful weather.
We did. There
was one day where it was really foggy, so like when we on our way to Petra, that wasn't great, but overall I think we were lucky with weather. And just for us, it's the kind of trip where being able to go out a lot as well, it was worth it to have 4 full days, even though the trip is officially 2. And so we did it around Election Day in Israel because that gave us another time.
Another thing that's beneficial about that time of the year was that it was slightly cheaper because it's the off season. It wasn't when everybody's traveling. So I think that was also part of it too. All right, so let's break down each day and our overall thoughts. So first off, let's start with the first day, which was Wadi Rum, and then going to a Bedouin camp. What do you think of Wadi Rum?
Wow, so Wadi Rum was magical. I've never felt more like an explorer in my life. And what was really cool is that we knew, like, when we were going to be a year in Israel, we had to see Petra. And like I had briefly heard of Wadi Rum, knowing that like to make sure to do it if we were going to Petra, you might as well. But neither of us researched too much, so it was such an unexpected surprise that it was really, I mean, you can't really choose a favorite because they're both amazing, but it was kind of unexpected how much we loved Wadi Rum and just how beautiful it was. It really felt like we were in a movie. We recently just watched Aladdin, and it was so cool because all the amazing landscapes we saw is in that movie. And
it was honestly probably one of the coolest things I think I've ever. I just didn't know what to expect. But basically what it was we ended up getting on these Jeeps, and they kind of drove us around, and they would stop during certain places, and we would kind of hike or do a little walk up to see some point or whatever it may be, or go to a sand dune or just different things. And it was such a freaking cool experience. If you get a chance to go to Wadi Rum, I highly recommend. It was definitely, both days were such highlights, and probably the coolest trip I think we've ever taken, at least for me. So
it's hard to put in words. Just know we saw lots of camels during that experience, and it just felt like We were really, it felt like it was so private too, which was another thing, is you could really just take in the amazing landscape. It was really special.
So if you're a fan of like Star Wars or The Martian or those kinds of movies, this is the place for you to go to. It is a little warm during the day, but at night it cools down a lot, so that's also something to be aware of. The Bedouin camp.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. That was a really cool experience, just learning about the lifestyle, how they live, how they survived in the desert for so long. You basically roll up to like some camp, and there's all these like striped black and white tents, but it's really cool. You're just smack in the middle of the desert, and they make all of their food like in different ways. So for us, they had it where they baked it in the ground the whole day, and that was really cool. And they're just very friendly people.
I think it's so cool anytime you get an opportunity to interact with people that, unless you do something like this, I mean, you probably would never meet. And somebody who was really cool was like kind of the head of the camp. Like we found out that he's part of like their family races camels, and there's like a whole camel racetrack, and it was this kind of experience like wow. And just hearing about, you know, how large the families are and how their culture works, that was really cool. And just in general, as far as the people, we were so fortunate. Our tour guide Mo was the coolest man, and he made us feel so like relaxed and at ease, and we really trusted him throughout the trip. And he did such a good job of bringing our whole tour group together. It was us and like 10 other people, and that was great because the small number again made it feel like really homely, but then also we were able to get to know them, and it was so international. They were from like Poland and New York and really all over.
It was just nice because like the Bedouin camp is when we really all got to bond and hang out and have dinner together and really talk. We played Uno at night, and the other thing that's really good about Bedouin camps is the tea. The tea there is amazing. I think that's kind of something that they're really known for. So
they had special sweets too, like the sticky kind of pastry.
Yeah, I don't know the name of those.
It was so good.
So then we spent the night there. Something to be aware of is that you might want to bring a portable charger if you go, because electricity-wise, they don't really have a lot of electricity. So that's something to note, definitely. Again, it gets really cold at night. It is a desert, so it's hot during the day, but no matter what time of the year you go, it's going to be freezing at night just because of the landscape. It just gets cold, so bring lots of layers. That's something we didn't do very well.
We were able to sleep under a huge like wool blanket, so that helps a lot. But it's definitely a lot colder than you would think, especially since it's a desert. I mean, what we wore in Wadi Rum was, I think I wore these exact jeans and a sweater and a jean jacket, so it's not hot by any means when we went, at least. And just know also at the camp, like we arrived at 3:30 in the afternoon, and that was something that caught us off guard a little bit because we were so used to like being on the go. We're like, oh, we're just here and there's nothing to do, but it ended up being great because, I mean, again, remember there's like no service, so you're just interacting with everybody, and it was really nice, and we all watched the sunset together. And
highly recommend watching the sunset in the desert.
Beautiful.
It's just it's a stunning place to be. I mean, you're just surrounded by beauty, and it's really, really, really amazing. All right, so the next day we woke up early at like 6 a.m. We left the camp at 7, I believe is what it was, but at 6 a.m. we had breakfast and got ready, and we were out by 7, and we drove to Petra. It was a cooler day. It was very foggy. It was cold. We ended up making a stop on the way to Petra at this cool little like store to buy different things. You could different trinkets and things. And both of us ended up buying these beautiful scarves. Wait, we can show it. When we stopped at this little store, Jordan as a whole is known for just like beautiful handmade scarves. So we ended up both buying just beautiful, beautiful scarves. I don't know if you can see the detail in both of them, but they're both really beautiful. So I recommend if you're going and you want to buy something really unique, a scarf is the way to go.
Yeah, especially since once you're in Petra, a lot of people are wearing them in different ways, on their neck or on their head. And it's a really fun accessory, I think, for photos because it's really an eccentric, like exotic place. And I collect snow globes, so actually our tour guide was really sweet, and he had a connection with the people there, so he just bought it for me, which was really sweet. Petra.
So there's Petra, really beautiful. So once we arrived at Petra, our tour group as a whole got off the bus. We walked through the main entrance. They showed on a map kind of where we were going. And the most famous part about Petra is the treasury. That is like the most famous part. When you think of Petra, that's what everybody thinks of. That I didn't really know. I didn't realize Petra is like a whole city. There's actually like an actual city as well. But Petra is like what everybody thinks of as a city carved in stone. but I don't know how long it took to walk to the treasury.
It depends obviously how fast you're
Yeah.
going. When you're first walking in, you want to take everything in, and we were fortunate to have our tour guide with us, so he was doing a great job pointing out the different carvings and what they meant and like what they would have been used for. We learned a lot about like what the people there, like how they would have lived, which was really cool. So I would say with him, it took an hour walking in because we were really like taking it in. And as you're walking, like you pass all these like horses and there's a lot of animals around. It's like a whole experience, and I mean, it's all kind of like a canyon, so it's really amazing and beautiful to see. You really want to like take your time, but it's not that like deep in to get to the treasury, because on our way back, when we'd already taken everything in, we could just leave. It was more like a 20-minute walk. So.
Yeah, definitely take your time walking in. There's so many different carvings everywhere you look, and the rocks itself just have so much color and detail. It's stunning. So really take your time. And when you do get to the treasury, it's breathtaking.
Yeah.
It's what you think it would be. It was obviously, it's a big highlight. It's one of the great wonders of the world. Yeah, it's definitely, everybody's there congregated right there. That's kind of where majority of the people are, definitely. But you can definitely get your photos. There is a place, like when you are looking at the treasury, behind you to your right, there's a little place you can go up where everybody takes their picture, where they're like sitting. I'll put a photo in here, but it's like the known picture everybody takes. Yeah, we hung out there for a bit and then continue walking, and you see like the different apartments that there are, and you see that there are more treasury looking things. I don't really know what to call them.
Yeah, you kind of see like, because these were places where people were living. It's also where they were buried, so I mean, you can tell, like, it's all, like, you know, holes, like, dug into the rock, but at one point it was, like, people's homes, which is cool to think about, and we saw a super cool amphitheater where, like, at some point it could have held, I think he said, like, around 3,000 people to see a show, and it was, like, really advanced, like, the way people would get to their seats. It was super cool, and
there's a lot to see there. It's something we didn't get to do is there is a point at which you can go to the monastery. You have to walk up a bunch of stairs. We didn't have time, unfortunately, but it was a pretty cool day also, and we just didn't really have time, but we did start walking that direction. We got really up close and personal with the camel, which was really cool. So I would just say take your time exploring that whole area because there's so much to see. There's even like really cool, what was the tile thing?
Oh, that was super cool. That was actually the site of where there was a Christian church at one point before everyone in the area converted to like Islam. It was there were really beautiful mosaics on the ground there, and I just recommend exploring. There's so many camels just wandering, and goats and donkeys and horses, and just there's a lot going on. And there's also markets along the way as you're hopping along. So if you want to get little trinkets or gifts or whatever, that's the place to do it. And I know Natalie got something. I did. So this was something I really had my eye on. Because I thought it was really unique and beautiful, and what really sold me is because a lot of people, you know, were selling these sand bottles. Yeah, kind of looks like a message in a bottle, but it's filled with sand. Really cool.
It says Petra.
And we actually were able to talk to a man doing it, and I wanted to make sure it was actually coming right from there. And he was great because he did it right in front of us, so we could see the process of how he made it. And I mean, it was really cool. I thought really talented. I think it's really beautiful. Something special.
I think something that's really cool about that too is if it breaks, if the glass breaks for some reason or something happens, it becomes a rock. So
I'm protected much more than with this one. But I love snow globes.
So that's something that's really cool. I ended up before we left Petra or before we left Jordan, we stopped somewhere else, and because I didn't get something there, I ended up getting just a very small keychain that said Jordan on it. Sand, I think, and the scarves are like the two big things that are really good gifts to get for other people if you go to Jordan. Anything else about Petra?
Just that, I guess I would say it feels like a whole different world almost. Like there is nowhere I've ever been that is like it at all, and I don't think there is anywhere really out there like it. It's its own special, unique place, and
really beautiful, really.
And just do your best to, you know, take in that day as much as you can, because I mean, it's a really special, like, kind of once-in-a-lifetime experience for sure.
Also, if you get a chance, the thing that we did on the way out, too, we had some time to spare. We just quickly walked and checked out the museum, which is kind of at the entrance. I would recommend doing that, too. It was free, and definitely it gives you some more background information and history on Petra, and it was really cool to see, too. Anyway, so after Petra, we obviously drove back, and we came back to a lot. They dropped us off, and if you saw the vlogs, you know the rest of the story of what we did. Let's just go over overall our thoughts. Did we like the trip? Would we go again? Would we go use the same tour group? That kind of thing.
It was a wonderful trip. Honestly, maybe the best trip I've ever been on, especially for 2 days. It felt so much longer than 2 days at the end because we'd accomplished so much and done so much. And
we were exhausted for a long time. That's something to keep in mind.
And we talked a lot about Wadi Rum and Petra, of course, because that's why you do it, and those are major highlights. But there were so many other moments too, like when we first crossed the border, we were able to explore Aqaba, which is a really cool town in Jordan, and we were able to have breakfast there, and I felt like we were really able to take in a lot of stuff because we were in a small van with our tour group. So, and he did a great job. Mo did pointing out the landscape around us, all the different mosques. You pass such a different landscape in Jordan, you know, like it just, it really felt, I don't know, like we were really in the Middle East, or we just been in Aladdin. I don't know. It's a really special
The Jordanian mountains, just driving through them, they're just so stunning. And from a lot, you can see them from far away, and they're beautiful. I'll show a video here too. Yeah. They're absolutely stunning, but being in them and seeing the detail is absolutely incredible. Yeah,
there was one moment where a bunch of camels just crossed in front of us, like, I don't know, 20 to 30 of them. They were babies, and obviously that's something that you can't get pretty much anywhere else. It was
very unique.
It was super cool.
Definitely. And I would recommend definitely going through a tour group, just because there's so many things you learn from being with the tour group and just being with other people. I think you definitely could go by yourself. It would be a lot trickier because you need to figure out border fees and visas and that sort of thing. So there's just a lot more details you need to focus in on, versus if you can go through a tour group, it's a lot easier because they take care of all of that for you.
Exactly.
So I would definitely recommend that.
And it just feels a lot safer. I think it would be okay on your own, but it just feels safer, especially that, like,
if it's your first
crossing the border, it's different than I've experienced in other countries. Just a little, like, not as organized and just not as clear.
Very confusing. I'm very used to going from, the Canadian border from between America and Canada, and it's just compared to something like that, it's very like, where do we go now kind of thing. It's just very different. Any special foods that we should try while you're there? I think just having hummus, any sort of Middle Eastern food, you definitely want to try while you're there.
Another thing about advantage of going through the group is that meals were included. So we didn't have to worry so much about picking out our own food, which of course you see something interesting, try it. But we thought our group did a good job of, they provided a lot of hummus, like the Mediterranean food for sure, and the tea. And I mean, every day we pretty much had pita and hummus.
Yeah, we had good food, so I recommend. Would you recommend going this time of the year? And if not,
I mean, the way it worked out for us, I'm sure there's other good times of the year too, but I think March was perfect, where it was a little bit cheaper, but we still had great weather. And
I definitely would recommend going our time of the year. Just trying to keep in mind making sure it's not the rainy season, because the rainy season, a lot of times Petra and certain places will be closed, and you would hate to go and have your trip not be able to go see the things you wanted to see. That would also be horrible. We mentioned cell service already. Yeah, we did mention that. The main thing that we realized later is our tour group did include information about extra cash to bring, but just because of all the different currencies, we had like American dollars, Alexis even had euros, shekels from Israel, and then in Jordan, which we learned they use the diner. Yeah, dinner.
Which sounds
so
like
confusing.
Dinner or diner, but it's say it again.
Dinner.
Jordanian dinners, and that's actually stronger than the dollar and the euro, which we got very confused.
We didn't know that either, and so in order to leave and to go back into Israel, it was like 40 diners or something like that. And we were not prepared for that, so figuring that out was a mess too.
It worked out for us, but it was just like an added stress, something we had to think about.
Bring more cash
as far as like souvenirs, because you're definitely better off having more than you'll ever need, just because you end up having to tip the driver at the tour, like the tour guide, and he did such a great job. We wanted to make sure to leave him, the tip he deserves, so you have to account for that. So
definitely bring more, because you can always, convert it back over to whatever you need. So just be prepared for that. But I guess overall it was a fabulous trip. We loved Jordan. We miss it still. We're so happy we went, and we would definitely go back in a heartbeat. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I hope you enjoy and have a wonderful day. Be sure to like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.